Hey, goddess. So I want to talk about fear. I want to talk about fear and why that is probably the number one thing that is stopping you from being as powerful as you actually are. If you are engaging in any sort of goddess energy work, in any sort of magic, in any sort of hoodoo, anything to that extent, and whenever you try to engage in any sort of work, you feel like it's not working, or you feel like perhaps it's a little delayed, things like that. When you feel like that is happening, I can guarantee you that if there's any sort of fear that has came into play that you have not dealt with, that is what's stopping it from working. That's what's stopping you from being as powerful as you really can be. I have become such a firm believer in like hoodoo me down. Like my whole entire life is now a magical experience. Everything that I do from the moment I wake up to the moment that I go to bed, I am creating some sort of magic in my life. And the reason that I chose to do this is because when I came to the realization that it's everywhere, that everyone is doing it in some way, shape, or form, whether they know they're doing it or they don't know. Because let's be honest, some people don't know that they're doing it. Some people don't know that their words are spells. Some people don't know that their writing are spells, that they are affirming over their lives, over other people's lives. And some people may look at that and say, okay, you're thinking way too deep into it. No, that's the problem. It is that deep. Everything is energy. Everything is some sort of magical doing or magical work. That is the type of environment that we live in. We came from magic. We came from, and some people don't like the word magic, but we came from it. We came from energy. And so making it a part of your everyday life, in my opinion, is when you really start to take control over your life. But if you are operating in any state of fear, if you are too concerned about karma, too concerned about reaping what you sow, if you are concerned about what are people going to think, what are people going to say, that's the reason why this channel was created, for us to go through tips and tricks and all the tools, all the resources that are out there for you to be able to, conduct your work in private, but still, get the support that you need, get the, information that you need. If you're worried, about what like someone else has to say, or if you just want to make sure you protect your image, protect your family, things like that, that is actually, in my opinion, another form of magic, is being able to, successfully do this while maintaining your privacy. If you're afraid, it's going to show up in your work. It's going to show up in your work. So I really want to encourage you to really focus on alchemizing your fear. And I want to talk about some ways that you can alchemize your fear. And I don't want us to, think too heavy into the word alchemize. Alchemize truly means to transmute. Transmute means to change. It means to alter. You are altering the state of, that feeling that you have, or the energy that you are engaged in right now. So if you are afraid, I want to help you get out of the fear so that you can start really seeing your work. And I'm going to use a very common example. I think this is one we've probably all engaged in at some point or another, because we know that we live on a planet where money is important. We have to, create an income for ourselves. We have to generate money. So anytime that you have done any sort of manifestation work, any sort of spell work, and you are trying to call money into you, the moment that you put that work in, right? No matter what it was, because all of it works. That's one thing I will tell you. All of it works. All of the tips work, all the hoodoo herbs work, all the oils, all the conjuring, all of it works. It's just a matter of finding what works for you. So you have picked your, work of choice, and you have decided to put it in your affirmations. You spoke over your herbs or your workings. You told it what it needed to do. You cleansed yourself. You protected yourself. You did everything right? But then the moment you stepped away, that little thought crept in, and what if it don't happen? What if it don't happen? How long is this going to take? Man, did I do something right? That's fear, babe. That's fear. The number one way that I have learned to change that energy is every moment that I have the opportunity to. I am speaking over myself that every time I feel any sense of fear, any sense of sadness, or any sense of anger, that my strategy gets better, that my confidence improves, that my money increases. Now, this is a daily affirmation, and actually, I can't even say just daily, y'all. This is like an hourly affirmation, where on a very consistent basis, multiple times throughout the day, I'm saying this to myself. I'm speaking this over myself multiple times throughout the day. Every single time that I feel any ounce of fear, sadness, or anger, fill in the blank happens. That is a transmutation of energy or feeling just based off of your words. And I need you to understand just how powerful that is. If you don't know the power of your words just yet, then I definitely encourage you to look into that, to do some more studying around, the power of your words. And actually, better yet, I'm going to take it a step further and say that also might be an indicator that you have some self-development work that you still want to focus on as it pertains to like your self-concept and really building up exterior confidence and really thinking highly of yourself, having higher self-confidence, higher self-esteem. That is going to really be important in order for your goddess energy to start working for you. Goddesses do not have insecurities that are strickening them, that's stopping them from working in their power. Goddesses don't have issues with self-concept. They know who they are. They know their ins, their outs. They're comfortable, with who they are, their highs, their lows. That's how well you need to be and how comfortable you need to be with yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You need to be totally in love with all of it. And if you still feel like you're challenged, in those areas, that's okay. That is okay. But that just means that there's more work that you need to do, because the more that you focus on that work, that is what's going to help you when the fear kicks in and it's time for you to transmute the fear. So that's one way that you can do it. Actually, I kind of gave you two ways, because I'm going to be honest with you. The higher that you view yourself in exterior, and when I say exterior, I'm talking about the physical. So the higher you feel about yourself, the better you feel about yourself as a woman. The way that you carry yourself, the way that you look, your personality, your mental health. When you start like focusing on that stuff, that already is going to help transmute fear. You're going to feel a lot less fearful. So that was actually one technique. The other technique is, when the fear does come, transmute it with your words. It's very simple, very easy. You can come up with your own affirmation. It needs to be one that you can say, that's pretty quick, that you can remember. And over time, I've added on to it. Every morning I engage in what's called alchemy work. That's what I call it for myself. I engage in my alchemy work after my prayers, after my Psalms. I have a whole little section that I read over every single morning, to where I'm alchemizing the energy before it even comes in my direction. That's how serious, it is. And so I definitely encourage you to implement that in your mornings and in your evenings. So let's talk about the third way that you can start transmuting fear as you see it come up in your workings. So I want you to look at fear as a form of evil. I want you to program your mind to start looking at fear like it is the devil. It is one of the most evil tools and tactics, because it really is. It really, truly is. I'm not even saying it just to be funny. Like it is evil. And when you start viewing it like it is evil, what would you want to do as a goddess when evil comes your way? You would want to protect yourself from that. You will want to ward it off. You would want to get rid of it, right? The way that you can do that is by first calling fear what it is. You need to view it at its most egregious state, which is, this is an evil energy. I don't have and I don't keep evil energy around me. So while you're doing your protection workings, every single time, this is my encouragement to you. Every single time that you are doing any sort of protection work, I do protection work every day. That's just my personal, vibe. But that is something that I make sure to incorporate. I ward off and I verbalize that, fear is something that never touches my doorstep. Fear never touches my doorstep. It never enters my threshold. Like, I am very avid. And that's because I used to be a really fearful person. So that's the reason why I think it's so important to me now to make that a part of my workings. So every time I do protection work, I make sure to incorporate an herb or some sort of an essential oil that is going to protect me from fear. Peppermint is one that I know that is often used in the Indian culture for warding off fear, anxiety, grief, things like that. And so what I personally like to do anytime I get a whiff of fear or I start feeling it, I go and smell a peppermint essential oil. And that has certainly helped me over time with, reprogramming my mind, my spirit to know that whenever I smell peppermint, I smell protection, I smell power, I smell the influence of evil being, warded off from me. And again, I know peppermint is a part of hoodoo. I'm just not totally sure. And I ain't about to be sitting out here lying to y'all. I'm not totally sure if that is something that was commonly used for protection. I'll actually look into that and I'll confirm. But for me, where I personally learned it from was from Indian practice. And that has been something that I have found to be very, very helpful. So even if it's not peppermint for you, there are many other herbs. Lavender is one, rosemary is another protection herb. So, and that's very heavily used in hoodoo. So those are also essential oils that you can obtain, that anytime you start feeling fear around your practice, and like I said, especially y'all, especially if you know yourself, you have to know yourself when you're doing this type of stuff. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself, your ancestors, your spirit guides. Don't lie to the goddesses that you work with. Everybody already knows what's going on. All right. So everybody already knows if you're afraid for real. Everybody already knows if you really think you're powerful or not. Like, this is not something that, we can just pretend with. So since you want to go into these workings being your authentic self, it is okay to authentically admit that you may be afraid. It's just a matter of not sitting in that fear, and you are going to work the power that is, within you to help you transmute and get out of that fear. So utilizing your senses, utilizing that sense of smell can certainly help you. That was something that I did when I first started. And every now and again, even when I have to, when it's something, especially like if I'm working with, let's say, like a new deity. So recently I have been studying different goddesses. And one of the goddesses in particular, she did scare me a little bit. All right, she did. And so when I started to feel that, I had to start remembering that, I am also a goddess. I am only studying about her. I've not even made the decision if I want to work with her yet. And she has not made the decision, or she has not made it clear to me that she wants to work with me. This is simply just an introduction. Like, what do you have to be afraid of? Like, so, talking to yourself in that way, it can definitely help you to kind of soothe and ease that anxiety. So if you want to do it verbally, you can. Or if, like I said, if you want to grab an essential oil and you want to, smell something in particular, and you start associating that when I smell this particular thing, that is how I know that the fear is leaving my body. The fear is leaving my mind. I no longer carry that energy of fear, because now I am wrapped in this fragrance of protection. I'm wrapped in this fragrance of knowing. So that is something else that you can do, that you can utilize to really assist you with transmuting the fear. So just to do a quick recap, utilizing actual herbs in your workings, that's always going to be a good thing, while also instructing the herb what to do. You want to make sure that you're always talking to your workings, no matter if it's candle magic, if it's oils. It doesn't matter what it is. You are the goddess. You are the worker of that work. So you got to make sure that you're telling it what you need it to do. You're telling it what you want it to do. That is going to help you. So every time you're doing protection work, again, I recommend you do it every day, but up to you. I would talk to it. I would make sure that you let it be known. I would also incorporate it in your daily alchemy practices. I think every single day we should be alchemizing energy. We should be, especially the energy that we know is going to come our way. Because think about it, there's some energy like you just know is going to come. You know what I'm saying? You just know that you're more than likely going to interact with, the same people, or you may feel a certain type of way when you go to work every day. You got to deal with traffic, whatever it is. You know that there's energy that may form, so you can go ahead and alchemize it before it even gets to you. It's the same with fear. If you know that you're a fearful person, start incorporating that when you get up, throughout the day, and when you go to sleep. Have that affirmation that every single time that you feel fear, something amazing happens to you. Whatever you want that thing to be, that's how you transmute fear. The other option is to utilize your senses. So whether it be touching something that makes you feel warm and protected, whether it be smelling something. I like the smell of things. That one really did work for me. But, you want to stick with one specific thing that makes you feel protected whenever you start feeling fear around your work. The other thing is going to be constantly working on your self-concept. You always want to make sure that you think the absolute highest of yourself. That is what is also going to help to transmute any fear that will come your way. And then that last one that I want to throw out really quick. A lot of times, y'all, the reason why we feel fear in the first place is because of the unknown, right? Because that tends to happen, especially when we are trying new things. When we are trying new magic, when we are studying new deities, when we are trying to connect with our ancestors for the first time, any of that type of stuff, it is going to bring about a little bit of fear because you don't know what's going to happen, right? So I'm not going to sit here and act like it's not healthy to have some fear, but I will tell you that it needs to still remain very controlled by you. And so constantly being in a state of learning, like if you continue to remain a student, no matter how good at this you get, because sometimes you'll come across somebody whose magic and whose like ability to manifest is just powerful. Like it's potent. You can tell things just happen in their life very quickly. That's an OG. That's somebody that has been in this game for a long time. They know what they're doing. Like I can guarantee you those people are still students. They're still students. They're still willing to learn from someone. Keep yourself in a state of being a student and always trying to learn and study and know more. And that is also what's going to help you to suppress that fear, to go ahead and get rid of that fear that may come up. Because you can look at it from this perspective. Even if this is something new for you, something that you have never tried before, a new working, a new herb, a new candle, whatever, because I know that I'm willing to go and study, I'm willing to go take the time to learn, that right there is what is going to help me establish knowing. When I have knowing, I have no fear. So I really hope that these tips help someone. And again, if you are someone that you feel like you really want to get into this, or you are already into this, but you feel like your work just, is not working well for you, I really want you to get honest with yourself. Sit and find out, like, are you someone that is really battling some fear? Focus on transmuting the fear first. And then I promise you're going to see like so many improvements when it comes down to your manifestation, your magic, your hoodoo, whatever you want to call it. You'll definitely see an improvement.